Bedtime Stories from Sleep With Me. It's brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations. Friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for the podcaster. It's who's recording something for a galaxy far, far away, long ago and far, far away. The long ago and far, far away. That sounds like someplace if you go through a wardrobe where you go. Where are you going? The long ago and far, far away. Okay, that sounds. Through the wardrobe, eh? No closets in this place. No, it's an older building, no, we just have wardrobes here. Okay, well, I thought, how about you go through a wardrobe and start the opening of a sleep podcast instead? Oh, what kind of sleep podcast would I start? Well, one that's meant to keep you company and take your mind off of stuff while you fall asleep. One that's for people who've had trouble falling asleep their whole lives, or maybe they're just in a situation where they're having trouble falling asleep. But, they need something to take their mind off of stuff and keep them company. Okay. Sounds like you, I did, right. This podcast tends to repeat itself. And what is it about bed? Well, a lot of us dread bedtime. We have trouble getting to sleep, staying asleep. So sleep with me is meant because it's not fun to do that. It's not fun. Everybody deserves a good night's sleep, right? I think you're right. And so sleep with me is, even if people don't like the show, there's other sleep podcasts listed and sleepy stuff at sleepwithmepodcast.com/no thank you, because everybody deserves a good night's sleep. But, we know what it feels like in the deep dark night. So that's why we make the show. Okay. I like that answer. What's coming up? Well, great question. This is an episode that should come out around May the 5th or May the 4th. We always say, May the 5th be with you. And you say the Fifth Amendment? Like, what, the fifth what? It's May the 4th for Star Wars. That's why we said far, far away. Okay. But structurally, what you expect, there's going to be support. That's how the show comes out. Free Choice Week. Then there'll be a long, meandering intro meant to ease you into bedtime. And then there'll be a bedtime story, some tangentially related to Star Wars. I think it's about blue milk or something. Yeah, I heard that. I saw some of the notes. New blue milk or something like that. Okay, well, that's cool. So yeah, that's it. So time for, it's time for, I'm trying to think what else. Oh no, this is just, so there'll be a long manner. Yeah, it's time for Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. And these sponsors are what enable us to do it for free twice a week. All right, everybody, Scoots here. Happy maybe May the 5th, May the 4th. I don't know how many times am I going to get that wrong. Let me just look at what day of the week that is. May the 8th, May the 7th, May the 5th, May the 4th. So it'll be, ideally this will be coming out on May the 3rd. For May the 4th be with you. But so we've put out some of these episodes. At one point, the only thing I could think of for some reason is a Yoda statue at the Presidio at Lucasfilm, and I somehow associate that with episodes of Sleep With Me that come out on May the 4th. And there was one time my daughter and I got deep dish pizza at a place that was celebrating May the 4th, and they had like Star Wars activity books and stuff like that. And I don't know, so I've probably talked about my history with Star Wars. I saw Return of the Jedi was the first Star Wars movie I ever saw. It was one of the first movies I saw in a theater. I think I looked at maybe it was on the second run of Return of the Jedi, maybe the first. No, I guess the first. So I don't want to get too deep into that. I've enjoyed a lot of the series. Andor was absolutely spectacular television or like a viewing experience. But this idea came up, and not so much from this came from a kind of fandom of theme parks and an idea I put out a while ago. So I just wanted to set it up, which is kind of like, then we'll go on a little journey with somebody. But so at some point over the past couple of years, Disney opened a Star Wars themed hotel, right? Called the Galactic Star Cruiser, which is interesting because wasn't it the Galactic I don't know. I don't know a ton about it other than it's like a cruise ship. You spend 2 or 3. It sounds very cool. That's one thing. But it's also, right now it's out of my budget. But there's speculation that the price will come down because it's kind of like paying for a cruise. But the cool thing is that it does sound a bit like a Renaissance fair meets an escape room, meets like one of those mystery dinners you go to, which is my daughter and I right up our alley. And so it's a fully immersive experience. And from what I've heard, which is mostly listening to Len Testa talk about it, is that the more you immerse yourself, the more you'll get out of it and the more you'll enjoy, and you stay very busy. So at some point I have fantasized about doing it, and probably not in 2023, but maybe 2024, 25, I'll budget it and pull it off or whatever. But one of the things that was interesting, so Len Testa is this Disney, it works on the unofficial guides to Disney parks and to other travel destinations, and the touring plans, website and app and service. And I always appreciate Len's takes. A lot of it is data-driven. But so Len had gone to do this and kind of picked a character and was like, I'm going to go in character, right? And you could kind of hear all about that. It sounded like a great time, and it was a funny character and a great, well-developed ideas. And the other day, I was just thinking about it again. I don't know why. Maybe he was talking about it again on a podcast or something, but I was like, I remember I was running. It was literally like within a week because I'm recording this way ahead of time because the idea came to me. I was like, well, who would I be if I do Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser one day, what character would I be? And at first it was hard, because I was like a little too gimmicky. But then I realized, I said, well, I already have an idea that I shared on the podcast that would be perfect for it, which is kind of like a skeptic, like someone, like, there's a TV show called X-Files, right? And maybe my daughter could be one of the characters from the X-Files or someone like that. But I would be more of like the characters that only appeared in like a couple different episodes, that they're like barely recurring characters on the original X-Files. But what's funny is that people say, the few celebrities that I look like David Duchovny, occasionally I look like David Duchovny sometimes, if I'm like standing the right way and my hair's the right way. But anyway, I would not be playing David Duchovny's character, Fox Mulder. Talk about a great character name. But I would be playing a tertiary character, someone like a little bit more quirky, a little bit more like me. I'm not like Fox Mulder. Maybe I am. I don't know if I'm like Fox Mulder. Probably not. But like I'd be like a little bit more quirky of a character with like out there ideas. But then I said, how would this fit like a sensibility of a family theme park and a sleep podcast? And they said, well, remember that episode you did? It was only on Patreon, but it was ideas, free ideas we were giving to Disney at the time when we were like, things don't seem like they're going that hot there. And we gave out two free ideas. I think it played but it was a bonus episode with Ray. And Ray and I kind of came up with this idea. But I'll give you the second idea, too. The second idea was to take the animatronic. Please tell me you didn't throw away the animatronics from different shows that you don't have anymore. And why not because I don't know if they watch YouTube, people at Disney, but, these animatronic, a lot of people have nostalgia for, like, Showbiz Pizza and Chuck E. Cheese, or even Rainforest Cafe, like those animatronics have a soft spot people for, and Disney has higher quality ones that used to do shows that they don't have anymore. And I'm just trying to tell them for free, put those things in dining areas. Either, I mean, I guess at the time it was like a food court, but I mean, you could do it at a paid restaurant, like a sit-down restaurant, starting with the Land, Food Rocks, or Kitchen Cabaret. But I was just thinking if it was a sit-down restaurant, they could have other ones. Like there was the one in Body of Life or whatever that was called, the kid that went to high school. I don't know if that's not what it was called, but discovering what it means to go to high school. That was like another animatronic show. You could have that in a restaurant, or you could have different rooms. Anyway, it's just a free idea for them. I mean, like to say, hey, it's not like with 3D printing, because they say, well, we got to maintain that. I say, well, there's 3D. Don't you got a 3D printer? Come on. But so the other idea that I put out on that podcast is kind of became the idea of this character. And then I said, well, who would the character be? And then I realized, as I said in the intro, we already had a character ready to go that I have regular contact with that lives exactly where we need them to live. So without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to our guest, Mr. Not Antonio Banderas, Mr. Wendy Mirstrap, coming to us from a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away via the magic of the transverse plane. Wendy Mirstrap. Oh, thanks, everybody. My name's Wendy Mirstrap. Also, just a note, Scooter forgot to say this. You would say that this is like, could be called, my behavior could be called parody or satirical, because like Scooter forgot to say that. Because I'm not very well known, but I am known not to rock the microphone like Scooter wrote for me when he told me to say that. But my name's Wendy Marstrap. I'm good to be here. I'm here in where I'm recording this with my do-back Dewey, who's my best friend and my companion. And even though Scooter pictures a tiny brontosaurus, that's not what Dewey looks like. But Dewey's a do-back. And you might be wondering why I'm here. Well, so this is kind of the idea. If I was on this galactic star cruiser, I would probably be, the irony is I'd probably be a little bit older than Scooter, but I don't think older is hard for him to play within the era of the First Order and things. So the last 3 Star Wars movies, I'm still around for those. So I just want everybody to know that. And why I'm there. But over the years, I've taken, as I've seen, I grew up, I wasn't, of course, my best friend's Dewey the Dewback. So my best friend was not Luke Skywalker, but I did know Luke, and, we spent time together and we grew up in the same place. And, we did a couple, I watched Luke have some adventures, and I followed like Luke, and really Luke's done a lot of great stuff, and even stuff, there's so many, Luke went from a kid, to a mythological figure, along with other mythological figures. And, you don't see that too often, especially in one lifetime. But so it's been, for me, it's been exciting. For other people, they may say, so this is where my advantage comes in of why I'm here, what I'm talking about, and what I'm here to do some debunking, believe it or not, and some telling of things you might not know about. And, the thing is that people who are bunking don't want to be debunked. That's one of the things I've learned over the years. And there's a lot of Luke, they have bunk on Luke, which they want to debunk Luke Skywalker or, Anakin Skywalker or Kylo Ren or Han Solo. They want to talk about that stuff. And, I've had other things in the past. I wanted to be a tour guide. And And I did, I did host a few things thanks to this podcast and this, I'm not sure I understand what a fan fiction fantasy machine is, but I've seen it and I've written in it and I've been to your world. We weren't supposed to talk about that, only into where we're recording the podcast. And so that's cool. But so I'm here to talk about what I've heard and what I know. Because, so what happens is, I still hang in the same similar spots, and a lot of people know that I know Luke. And so then everybody wants to bend my ear because I'll be sitting around, playing some sabacc or whatever. And, people say that's Wendy Mirstrap. They call me other names. I've known by, I've got some other names that people call me. Old Blowhard, that's one of them. Smells like a sandpit. That's like Bantha breath. But they call me other names too. But so they come and then they say, oh, you know Luke Skywalker? At first they would do that, but then I'd say, And then once they realize I didn't have anything, I don't know, I guess I'm friendly and I'm a good listener, but I have that thing where people want to talk to me about their theories about everything. And, the theories I've heard about Luke and Leia and all this different stuff. And some of it I say, I know somebody down there, and she could talk to you about this stuff. I can only listen because I'm just here, but it's interesting. But I do feel something in my heart where I say, this person's maybe having a tough time right now. And they're trying to find out alternative ideas through figuring out alternative ideas about Luke and Leia and the meaning or the intention behind their choices. I mean, I guess in some sense, from what we historically know about Kylo Ren, though history does change, I've heard that. I hope they don't change mine. Because my history's not, it doesn't affect any, you could change, I've been in two timelines now, so you don't need to change my history. I'm not impactful. I'm just listening. Until now, as I'm if I was walking the halls of this galactic Star Cruiser, I'd have some pamphlets. And Scooter said he would get me some patches, and that the patches was also offer people a chance to talk to me because they would say, "Ask me about." But apparently, I have especially when they say he used to know Luke over there. Him with the dewback. We said no dewbacks in here. And I say, well, do you want me to come? You point, and they say, okay, he's allowed his dewback in there. But then, most places, my Dewey takes up too much space. So what was my point? So my point is that a lot of people come and talk to me about their theories about everything. Once they get started, especially because normally, I like to have, I don't imbibe in mind-altering beverages, but I like to sit there and play games and be social. It's a social gathering point for our community. But I hear a lot of things, and I did want to, now, I never thought it was important. No, most people want me to listen and not talk, especially, I said, because their theories, they don't want them to be debunked. And, I used to do that, and then people would get highly frowny. And now I don't have to do it anymore, which is great because no one wants it anyway. So, so what was my point? Okay, so why am I deciding to change my stance on talking about things? Well, there's one thing that keeps coming up, and because we're here on this galactic Star Cruiser, imaginarily, Scooter said, we're close to the point of, I said, this is where I could do the most, I can make some impact, especially because no one thus far has wanted to tell me their theories about this, and no one knows this. And I guess it's At first, it wouldn't seem like well, there's even theories about this. There are people talking about it, but they're talking about it in a way that actually adds, instead of solving it, they're adding intention to it that's not even there. So what I'm here to talk about is blue milk. And some of you might say, what? If you're here to talk about blue milk. So my thing would say, ask me about blue milk. Or this is the theory that it's new blue milk. And this is something that people keep trying to debunk, but it's just not debunkable. And so that's why I'm here to talk about it and help people get to the bottom of it. Because, I don't know if I should share all of the theories about what, the thing. But the main objection is, what's blue milk? Scooter said, first off, you got to tell them what blue milk is. And basically, so blue milk is, it's Bantha milk, right? And it's the milk of a Bantha. I know there's other beings' milk that are consumed, and there's people that don't consume beings' milk. And, not every being can consume it. But blue milk is renowned throughout the galaxy because it is associated with Luke Skywalker. And even if it's not directly associated with Luke Skywalker or the rebellion, anyway, it could be indirectly associated with him, but it also is traditionally consumed. And it was a part of our diet, where I grew up and where Luke Skywalker grew up. And people would consume it as, so I guess this is where first thing becomes important to note. So you have a beverage traditionally consumed in just a few places, a natural beverage that people may decide, well, I have a different feeling about Banthas and, their milk, so I'm not going to consume blue milk. But then you also have people that drank it for a large portion of their lives, like myself. And at some point, now, wherever that happens in the galaxy, there's going to be something they call nostalgia, but there's also positive associations or something different than nostalgia, which is foods you have positive memories about that you enjoyed that are harder to get, right? And blue milk is one of those things that you say, okay, if you can only make blue milk, it's Bantha milk, right? But there was images, I guess, of Luke Skywalker drinking blue milk, and so blue milk became popular, but it wasn't, so blue milk became as popular as if you could get it, right? So someone might have purchased some Banthas, and they would say, here on Outpost Starry 4, Favor 5, we've got blue milk, or they'd say Blue Milk Day coming up, and they could charge a lot of money for it. They'd say, you could have your blue milk with fermented or unfermented or something. But they'd say coming up, Blue Milk Day, and they could charge and they could make them a lot of money, and that would encourage them to keep their Banthas happy. So blue milk did spread throughout the galaxy beyond what it would have naturally spread, because even without Luke Skywalker, people that grew up in the Outer Rim, will say, who may have had experience with blue milk, they'd say, well, man, I'm fixing for a blue milk. And sometimes they would search out for something similar tasting, but they'd say, oh, well, or they would come home and the first thing they would want to do is have a glass of blue milk, to be honest. And now there's people that didn't have that experience, so it's not everyone. So I don't want to give you the wrong impression that blue milk was universally loved, but it was just well-liked. And if you need a way to identify that, you may have easy association, right? But you may not. And I discussed this with Scooter, so he gave me a reference that your culture may or may not understand. This is only in Scooter's United States, though. But there is another one, Scooter said, maybe. So Scooter said there's two examples. One is like there's a lot of different ways to fry dough. And that's one that everybody probably has a different one. But Scooter said that's like something you do at home. So Scooter said maybe that'll help people. But the other one, Scooter said, was hot dogs. And he said maybe this isn't a universal thing, but he goes, like most hot dogs, most places had a regional hot dog. Maybe only, he said, but maybe only in the Northeast. And he said those hot dogs had a particular flavor. They were probably the most popular hot dog at a butcher that kind of grew and was successful, but they had their own recipe. Because Scooter said there's national hot dogs and regional hot dogs, but these are more local hot dogs. And Scooter said Rochester and Syracuse are perfect examples because they have two different local hot dogs that are popular. And there's probably other ones in the other, like Buffalo or Scooter said, I don't know, maybe other places. And New York City has a few brands of hot dogs that are probably more national because it's a larger city. But Scooter said you develop a taste for that hot dog if you develop a taste for it. And then as an adult, when you move away, you say, well, these don't taste the same as that one did. So that would go for other, what we'll say, because Scooter said you could say like a dairy beverage. Now, Scooter said anyway, let's just stick to, he said, stick to your theories. And I said, these aren't theories, these are facts. Okay, but people have developed, so a lot of people grew up on that, right? So I'm just giving you the context on blue milk, like a hot dog, and then you go to another region. But what if they gave you a hot dog and they said, yeah, this is a hot dog, the same hot dog, Hoffman hot dog is Scooter's hot dog. And he went to a place in California and they said, oh, yeah, we're a hot dog place, man. And we got Hoffman's and they served it. And Scooter said, it could be anything. The initial appearance, the preparation, or the taste. But Scooter said, usually just you'd be able to tell before you tasted it. He'd say, this isn't a Hoffman hot. No, man, this is a Hoffman hot. Well, you didn't prepare it the way it's traditionally prepared. Oh, man, yeah, this is my take. And Scooter said, if somehow you're not paying attention and you bit into it, you'd know by the mouthfeel. And then even if for some reason the mouthfeel was correct, then the taste. So that's why it actually does make a good example for this, because so people from the Outer Rim, we're just going to say, Tatooine, fine, we'll say it. Like they've traveled the universe, the known galaxy even, and then they have blue milk. And let's say it's some of this establishment. Let's just give an example, because this is a popular one that I've heard, and I've actually experienced it. So I'll just give you my own experience, because that actually is a fact. I went to one of these places. I was traveling for leisure, 100% leisure, by the way. No, I was not a emissary or anything. But let's just say that I did that, and then I went there, and they said Blue Milk Day in 2 days, for these hours only. It was incredibly expensive. Now, not like an expensive treat. And I had the blue milk, and I said, this is not blue milk. Like, even holding in the glass, it was, and that one I was proven, it was very easy to prove, because, people were already displeasured. I said, this isn't what blue milk tastes like. This isn't what it looks like. But the person did use the standard excuses, even though it's pretty quickly, because I said, show me your hands, and they were blue. And I said, that's blue coloring, food coloring. This is some sort of other dairy milk. But at first they said, oh, well, this is probably, it's a different grass. We're feeding the Bantha, different type of, mollusk or whatever. Oh, the water's different here. Oh, you just don't remember it correctly. Oh, maybe you're used to it having at a different temperature. And I said, your sign says optimized for ideal, temperature served at the ideal temperature, traditional Tatooine temperature for blue milk. Have a drink like Luke Skywalker. That's what your sign says. Okay, so anyway, that is like a micro-sized version of what's been happening across the galaxy. Because what happened was, now, blue milk wasn't that simply localized, or like as Luke became more and more popular and a larger mythological figure, more and more places would try to sell blue milk. And more and more of this would happen. And a lot of it was shown to just be not real Bantha milk. But, and right here in the Black Spire outpost, where our ship is docking, apparently, there is a blue milk stand. And there's more than one of these, because suddenly, at some point over the last few years, blue milk has become more readily available and standardized at certain places. And I have been paying attention to this, and other people have. I'm not the only one, so I'm not taking credit for but other people's theories were, and this does overlap on my theory. Okay, a lot of these are these are outposts. They're still in the outer reaches of the galaxy. But you could go from one place to another, and the blue milk will be the same at each stand. And the people working at the stand claim to be, local, and that they have the Banthas local to the outer rim, to Tatooine. And that they're following the best practices, and that this is the real blue milk. And they stick to it in a way different. They just say, but then they don't get, they do say, okay, well, it could be something, but are you sure you remember it? That's all they say. They say, this is real blue milk. This is the blue milk. The same blue milk Luke Skywalker used to drink. And they say that in an adamant way to where they just won't even disagree with you. They'll say, well, I'm sorry, you must be no refunds. This is real blue milk. And they can even show you, if you demand a refund, they say this is actually sanctioned real blue milk by the Blue Milk Authority. And then that's like, so then you look at the Blue Milk Authority, right? BMA. And if you start to dig into that, it's controlled by a large Bantha operation, Bantha dairy operation, Bantha Family Dairies, but then it has a bunch of letters after it. So it's a company that's named the Bantha Family Dairies. It's not, there is no Bantha family, obviously. And they even have their little Bantha thing, and it's supposed to be all fun. And we love blue milk. So you start to say, okay, so this is some sort of, and if you look up Bantha Family Dairies, you just say, okay, there's a whole history there, but it sounds a little bit too wrapped up in a bow about, this, outer rim and best practices and working together for the love of Banthas. We lived in harmony with the Banthas. And I'd say, I have a best friend who's a dewback. We don't always live in harmony. I mean, we love each other and we treat each other with dignity and respect. But sometimes I say, Dewey, I'm going to go sleep outside. You had too much broccoli, blue broccoli, and I can't sleep in the same room as you. And I'm displeased because I asked you to please not eat it all. And I'm going off, or I have a guest that I had a date with, and now I told you not to eat that blue broccoli. So now I'm very unhappy. So, what's my point? Okay, so here's where we're at, right? And we have one of these here at the outpost, a standardized form of blue milk that does not taste like blue milk that anyone or majority of people that I know, including myself, have tasted it. it does not taste like the blue milk of our youth. Now we're corrected and we're shown, no, this is, and they have videos on their site, this is, here the Bantha playing, and they're open, fields of Bantha happiness. There's the lute player playing music as the Bantha sleep. We at Bantha Family Dairies believe in only the best. Now, Bantha Family Dairies also sells other Bantha blue milk related products. Now, this is not something that's been going on, but if you actually start to look at research about Luke Skywalker and when Luke Skywalker crossed over into being a popular figure, historical figure, to like a mythological figure, with mixed feelings about, that's when the blue milk, kind of the popularity, it became disassociated from Luke Skywalker purely, but there was still something propelling it, along with Luke Skywalker's fame or legend or whatever. So now we have, the Blue Milk Planet cereal is the most, or Blue Milk, I don't know what it's called, but I haven't had access to it. I would hope they serve it for breakfast on this ship, and that's available for purchase, but I would be dismayed if it isn't. But so, and then there's other things like other milks that were popular. There's a green milk that Luke Skywalker also consumed. That's become part of a legend. That's also not as popular as blue milk. But so what conclusion do we reach if you've had blue milk? Let's just say for me, I go to this blue milk stand in this outpost. I haven't been to this one, but I've been to other ones. You drink the blue milk. Now, this one is a little bit closer in consistency and look to the blue milk. So you say, okay, then the mouthfeel is a little bit off, but then the taste is not the same. And I'll tell you why. Because, we joke around. You'll never have just one glass of blue milk. Like blue milk makes you full for a reason. So even with kids, you'd say, slow down on the blue milk, Luke. You don't want to have a tummy ache. Because blue milk is not... that's why the cereal matchup with real blue milk would be different. And it also goes to the consumption of Banthas and the amount of sugars, but that's like scientific stuff. But that blue milk is almost like a treat. But some people would give it because it is like, if you live out like so let's just say young Luke Skywalker doing a lot of hard physical labor. The beauty of blue milk would be for someone young like Luke Skywalker doing a lot of labor. It would be easy to consume and a large number of calories and proteins that Luke would need while Luke was doing Luke's work. Because you say, well, if it's tasty, why would it? And you say, well, because it's a good thing for growing people or as treats. But so this blue milk does not taste... you're not tempted to have a second glass. It's more of like, okay, this is interesting. But, like, I don't feel like, so it's almost like you're being offered a chance to drink some of Luke Skywalker's history and feel associated feelings and uniqueness, even though it's not directly marketed. It's indirectly marketed as associated with Luke Skywalker. So you drink and you say, okay, so what is that, right? So if your experience is this isn't blue milk, their objection is, yes, it is. And we have ironclad proof it is. So you are wrong, Wendy Mirstrap. You'd say, okay, well, it's close to blue milk, but it's not blue milk. But they're saying it is blue milk. Now, one of the theories out there that I'm here to debunk is that it is blue milk with additives. And the most likely additive is something to help everybody keep their teeth healthy. And I would say that is not true. And then they're saying, well, maybe there's, people could go on and on and on from there with wild ideas. But I've heard them all sitting around drinking real blue milk, by the way, straight out of a Bantha, like on my home planet. By the way, I do like my blue milk ice cold, but that's not how everybody consumes it. And I drink non-fermented. And I prefer a half glass of blue milk, and but I still stay pretty active. Okay, so so you'd say, okay, so someone changing the blue milk, and you say, I'd say, okay, those theories make sense, but if you say no, and I'm telling you that's not true, what would be the thing that why is this blue milk suddenly over the past few years, maybe a decade, become so popular and so well distributed, other than its opportunity to capitalize, I guess, on the popularity of Luke Skywalker indirectly? That's not a judgment statement. Those are just looking at the trends. And I would say there's one other thing. Now, there was a big boost in a certain region. There was a gigantic boost that backfired, where blue milk consumption spiked and then plummeted. And I looked at the distribution things. Anyway, I did a deep dive into facts. So there was this region, and the blue milk had already been selling there decently, and the Bantha family dairy, they launched a campaign because they didn't always serve it from stands, right? You could buy it in a can or a bottle. And they had this big marketing campaign. And the marketing campaign was, they had one of the more popular bands marketed to teens. They called themselves the Bantha Bums, but it was like a kind of like a teen idol music and doo-wopping, but it was more of like a variety music because there was like 11 Bantha Bums and different beings and different genders and things from that region and from other regions that would have had popular teen idol singers. And so they started marketing, being a part of this marketing thing. But then once they got used to the Bantha Bums, they had this contest called Bantha Bucks. And you would open a can of blue milk, and out of the blue milk would come a Bantha Buck. And you could win like one Bantha Buck up to 100, and they were good for things. Now, this was different than another marketing thing that, this was not blue milk, but there was one that had a similar campaign around the same time where someone thought they were going to get a Galactic Star Cruiser or whatever, a Corvette, one of those Corvettes. They said they won enough money. They said that was a different drink where they said, where's my Galactic Star Cruiser? So this was different, but they were supposed to the Bantha Bucks were supposed to pop out of the can. But what happened was the Bantha Bucks would shoot out of the can, and they would either blow away or they would bump you, or they might even hit your nose or something. And there was actually that famous video, someone with a Bantha Buck, a $100 Bantha bill, blue Bantha Bucks, that's what they were called, in their nose. And so that campaign was such a failure that the blue milk consumption plummeted in that region. But so here's where it gets really interesting. When you really dig into who owns these companies and you start to look at the trends in the timelines and who would need funding. And now this is also related to our planet, unfortunately, because there's a lot of money that moves through our planet because we do have gambling and we do have some powerful families here who are able to move money or change money and make it into make money, clean your money, I would say, money washers. the huts and everything, because they say, well, if you made money doing something where it's not taxable, okay, so but there was also a growth in because there was the empire, and then now we're dealing with this first order, correct? And the first order is not the empire. The empire was able to tax people, and through their taxation, they raised funds and did stuff. But the first order, if you start to think about it, they've developed all this stuff, and some of it's from leftover stuff. They have multiple revenue streams. Now, while even the existence of the first order, you got to say, is that even legal? Or what are the treaties or whatever? But they've also tried to find as many ways as possible to raise money for what they're doing, which, Dewey and I have no patience for. We say, put them in disorder, the first order. You're out of order. But if you look at the sudden rise in blue milk, and you look at the success or the spending of the first order, and you start to really follow this trail, the Blue Bantha Buck trail, not the promotional one, it leads back to the first order. Now, this is also known because, that's when people say, well, if there's additives, then if it's a blue order, they're doing something to the blue milk. But this is where what's really going to blow your mind, and it answers all the questions. So at some point, this Bantha family dairy became the foremost lead distributor of blue milk, non-regionally produced blue milk, an intergalaxy producer of blue milk, and, the most popular, and made it a somewhat popular beverage. Though the downside is it's not consumed on a multiple basis, but there's enough people curious about blue milk that we've done some studies that this is where the next groundbreaking thing happens. So at this particular outpost, there's a few of them where I've been able to observe some attendance figures and how many people are consuming blue milk a day within, a mathematical range. And here's what I found out. This is what led to my next round of research. I calculated the number of banthas or the blue milk storage you would need to serve that much of blue milk. And I did some heat mapping to say, okay, can I find out where locally those banthas are, because that would be pretty easy to be able to see bantha or bantha waste or bantha breath on thermal charts of the planet. And there's none. There's no large bantha farms, but there are buildings owned by Bantha family dairies. So you'd say, okay, the banthas are in there, or maybe that's just where they're storing the banthas and they're bringing the bantha milk from off planet. Now, this is an easy calculation. What is the size and weight of the bantha milk, right? You say, okay, if you're serving this many cups of bantha milk a day, you could pretty much come up with a formula of like how large a facility you would need and how many deliveries you would need of that off planet. And those numbers don't add up. It's just to simplify it. There isn't that much blue milk coming in and being stored and being distributed for it to make sense. So the blue milk is being produced, has to be being produced locally. So you'd say, okay, it's an indoor bantha farm. Okay. So then you start to analyze some of the water reports. And that doesn't, you say, okay, there's not enough bantha waste leaving, on the planet to account for that. So you'd say, okay, this is when I have already lost most people. They fall asleep or they leave, and that makes sense. But I talked to a scientist that worked for the First Order, and that told me all this when they were, when I was sitting there. And at first I just thought they were just another person with a story to tell. But they talked about how after the fall of the empire, and then it was a choice whether you want to be in the First Order. You couldn't be, so that was like worse in some sense for people that don't like the First Order, like me and Dewey, because the people that work for the First Order now, they're really driven in the missions of the First Order, which is mostly, and ironically, to get rid of Luke Skywalker and Jedis and other stuff. I don't know. Have a new order. I don't know. But so if you look at that, where were we? Okay, so they said there was a large number of First Order, that revenue generation, and even like taking stuff, like that was one of their things. It's like they were moving in to territory that the Hutts and other, like the Hutt, the job of the Hutt is probably the Hutt you're most familiar with. They would say, okay, well, we control those areas. So they had the vision to work with the Hutts and other families that were used to saying, well, we work in a gray area here. And how can we create a win-win situation and not go at odds? We're looking for revenue opportunities, but we're also, the Galactic Alliance is, looking at us and checking us twice. So we also have to come up with clean revenue sources, where all the books are in order. And this scientist was they said everybody was like, they said, if you came up with a revenue, there was no bad revenue ideas. Now, at the same time, they're trying to perfect their technology and push that in the same, no bad technology ideas. If you think it'll make a Jedi cry, run it by your supervisor. I think that was what the scientist said. Don't deny. If it makes a Jedi cry, don't deny. Your supervisor, run it by. Or I don't know, there's a poem for it. So this scientist had heard all that, and they noticed that one of the things they were producing, I don't know, some top secret stuff, I think with that base, but I'm not sure. But there was a few byproducts of those, like of different things they were doing, like large quantities of byproducts. And so, again, they were trying to, knock it on the bad side of the galactic, where they could. So they were trying to store this stuff. And one time, this scientist liked to go for walks. This was like one of those volcanic type planets, that you see a lot of, where they do this kind of stuff. And this wasn't volcanic, but like underground rivers, limestone caves, all that. And this scientist liked to walk down there, even though, so these were byproducts, but they're kind of unknown byproducts, not where you couldn't be near them. And what the scientists noticed was this one byproduct was incredibly popular with the local fauna. And then the scientist would keep walking, and then the scientists even talked to other team members, and they started to pay attention to the flora and the fauna. And the flora and the fauna were unimpacted negatively by the consumption of this byproduct of an industrial process by the First Order. And they said, well, that's interesting because this is free stuff and we've got a ton of it. And they said, they only eat it when they need it. Like they say, okay, like there's no other food. We'll just come eat this stuff because it's consumable. They didn't avoid it, but they didn't seek it. They didn't overconsume it either. And eventually they said, well, and they dared one another. And the scientist said, I'll try it. And it was not the color of blue milk. It was kind of like a gooey, translucent color. But the scientist said, what does it taste like? And the scientist said, like old blue milk, like kind of like watery, not this, a little bit like blue milk. And everyone else said, I never had blue milk. So then they all tasted it. But they realized that it was safe to consume. And so then they said, wait a second, like this blue, like then it went from there where it was like, this is an opportunity. We have like unlimited resources of this as a part of our essential industrial process. we're producing a ton of this goop, and if we could water it down and put some coloring in there, like we could sell it as blue milk. And then they came up with all these ideas, and then they worked with the huts on the business structure because they said, actually, the huts money comes in through there too. They said, we can clean your money, huts, for you in anything you're doing through this dairy structured in a way and spending money, on marketing and contests. And so I guess I got to wrap it up, but that's why this is, when I say blue milk, this is new blue milk. It is not real blue milk. The original blue milk is something different than this blue milk. This blue milk is, and you might say, Wendy, I don't believe you. And I say, it's okay. That's fine. I would just say, well, enjoy your new blue milk. It's totally cool to drink, and it's mostly palatable. But if it was real blue milk, you would say, I'd like to have a warm blue milk, or a chilled blue milk, or a frozen blue milk. I'd like to have another one. And, but that's fine too. If you want a blue milk, you just come out to where I am, come out and visit me. I'll buy you a blue milk, where I am. So that's it, everybody. Just Wendy Mirstrap checking in about new blue milk, and the original blue milk. Good night, everybody. All right. I want to thank everybody that became a patron recently. I want to thank Dave, Lynn, and Shelby. Thank you. Thanks, and good night. Faith, Thomas, and John. Thank you. Thanks, and good night. Cindy, Al, and Margaret. Thank you. Thanks, and good night. Philip, Lauren, and Leslie. Thank you. Thanks, and good night. Brooke, Molly, and Emily. Thank you. Thanks, and good night. Rachel, Tiff, and Sarah. Thank you. Thanks, and good night. Lauren, Kay, and Lisa. Thank you. Thanks, and good night. Gil, Edith, and Sue. Thank you. Thanks, and good night. Tom, Lovisa, and Anita. Thank you. Thanks, and good night. And Julia and Jean. Thanks, and good night. Thanks, everybody who supports the show directly. That's how we're able to bring you the podcast free twice a week. We're supporters and the people that support the sponsors. But you can also help the show out for free by just letting people know about the podcast, spreading the word. It's also a big help, and I couldn't do it without all of you. And, and it might be either Scoots or Tuck You In sponsor here, and that's how we were able to keep those 500 plus archived episodes in the feed. Thanks.